DJ Twitch's widow made a shocking confession just weeks after Diddy's houses were raided. And it came right on the heels of Ellen DeGeneres announcing her comeback in a new comedy tour that's a Netflix special as well. And when you add that together with the fact that Anne Heche and DJ Twitch were both gone within 6 months of Ellen basically being canceled and unceremoniously tossed out of Hollywood for allegedly being too mean, you might start to think that it was nothing coincidental about what happened to them. And considering the timing of Alison releasing these new details about Twitch just weeks before she went public with her new boyfriend in August of 2024, who she is already allowed to be introduced to her children with DJ Twitch, and the fact that she is singing a completely different tune from what she told police in the immediate aftermath of Twitch's passing, is making it more than obvious that there is a whole lot more going on than what anyone ever suspected. His wife, Alison Holker's widow, was on a podcast called The Squeeze, and it's Taylor Lautner's podcast with his wife, and they began to ask her some questions about DJ Twitch. And the answers that she gave on this podcast, which is about 18 months after his passing, were very different than the things that she said immediately after, as well as about 5 months after his passing. Her statements were very different. Now, for those who don't know the story, basically the official narrative is that in December of 2022, just 3 days after his 9th wedding anniversary, Stephen had a self-inflicted wound to the head and he passed away. Now, that was the official narrative. And a lot of people were not buying that narrative because they knew DJ Twitch to be this fun-loving, positive, joyful person who was always telling people, never give up. That was his message. He was innovative with his dance moves, and he used his dancing to bring joy and happiness to others. And so the very idea that a man like that, whose whole life message was one of positivity and endurance and never giving up because good things are just ahead of you, the very idea that someone like that would be responsible for self-inflicted, that was just anathema to people, and not only to the fans but also to his family. His grandfather said he still didn't believe that it was self-inflicted. His mother 6 months later said she can't wrap her head around it. And then with all the details that began to come out, there were so many questions. Even his widow at the time, immediately after, she told the police during the investigation that there were no mental health issues, no marital or family problems. He did not have any self-infliction thoughts or ideations. And then even about 5 months after his passing, she did an interview with Today Show, spoke with Hoda Kotb, and she even said on there that no one would have seen this coming. No one ever saw this coming. And then, like I said, last week, she goes on this new podcast, and now she says, well, a year before he passed, she began to see the crack.
The last year that we lived with him, it's almost as if I could give it a description, cracks in a window. It started to show where a lot more people were starting to ask him, like, are you okay? Do you need some time? Even team members, and not out of a vindictive way, but maybe you should take a break. Do you need some time for yourself? And he would start kind of locking up, being like, no, I'm fine. And then doing the opposite. Because everyone started to feel like maybe you're tired.
And everybody started to ask, how is he? Are you doing okay? Do you just need to take a break? So the question is, why all of a sudden was it no one saw this coming to, everyone saw it in that last year? That's just very interesting. And then when you add that to all of the questions that surrounded the actual details that we were given, it just makes it seem like, again, there is still more to the story, more to what actually happened, more to uncover. So for those of you who don't know the details, basically on December 12th, around 9:20 in the morning, DJ Twitch called a motel that was about 15 minutes walk away from his home. So it's less than a mile away from his home that he shared with his wife and 3 children. Called them, asked if there were any vacancies. So from that point, he proceeded to put his phone on airplane mode, and he walked to the motel. He got there around 10 something, and he went and checked in to room 249, and the manager said he checked in and never came out, and he was completely calm when he did this. Well, he left his car at home, and he was gone overnight, and basically his wife said that he hadn't been answering her calls, he hadn't returned any of her calls, and that was completely uncharacteristic of him. So the next day, December 13th, she didn't call. She ran to the police station to report what was going on, that her husband hadn't come home overnight. He was missing. He left his car. He hadn't been in contact with her, and that's not normal. So the police were so alarmed that they also went to her house to do, search for clues. But in the midst of them searching for clues at her house, because it ended up being a very brief search, because they got word that there had been a 911 call from a motel just a few minutes away from the house, where the hotel maid had gone into one of the guest rooms because they failed to check out, and she saw him lying on the floor in the bathroom with a towel wrapped around his neck. Now, that was all he had on him. His clothes had been neatly folded and stacked next to his backpack, which had his laptop and notebooks in it. Now, when that happened, there was no mention of any sort of thing that would cause a self-inflicted wound to the head. So when the reporters interviewed the motel staff and the manager, no one heard anything. No one heard any sounds. And it's very interesting because there were guests there at the motel, but no one heard any sound that would originate from a self-inflicted wound to the head. They informed Alison of what they found, what they uncovered, and the next day, December 14th, is when everything hit the news cycle. So TMZ was the first to report. Alison later that same evening confirmed that Stephen had left us, and then that very night, the police, LAPD, closed the case. So one day, December 13th, they found him. December 14th, case was closed. Now, at this point, there had been no mention of any sort of note. There had been no mention of any sort of object that would cause a self-inflicted, but they said that it was self-inflicted, case closed. They had not even had time to do toxicology yet, but they closed the case. Now, that same evening, Daily Mail published an article where they had actually spoken with Stephen's granddad, who had helped raise him. And his granddad at the time said, he says he's not sure that it's self-inflicted. That's not something that he knew Stephen to even be thinking of or even ever dealing with. This is someone that he knows was full of light and joy and positivity. He was a happy person, and he spread that all around. So his grandfather said, not buying it. That very same day they closed the case. So why 2 days later is the first time now anybody reports that there was a note? So December 14th, case is closed, self-inflicted. That same night his grandfather says, something's not right. Then 2 days later, the media hits the waves with the reports of, there was a note. And in the note, there are vague references to problems of the past. And that's all that they revealed. They didn't say any other details, but just that there were vague references to problems of the past or challenges in the past. And that was it. Now, to this day, no one knows the details of the note, well, at least not his immediate family, because they were actually asked to sign an NDA, and they did not sign that NDA. So his mother, his grandfather, and his brothers did not sign an NDA, so they were not privy to the things that were going on with the aftermath of the case. So those are just some things that really caused a lot of people to question, now wait a minute, not to mention the fact that, he was the DJ from the Ellen show, and Ellen show had just went out with a whimper, because remember 2020 she had all of those allegations come out about her not being really nice, her being the mean girl, and so it basically, instead of her show ending on a strong note, it went out sad. Ratings continued to fall. So May 2022, that was the actual last day of the Ellen show. That was when the Ellen show ended after 19 seasons. August of that same year, 2022, Anne Heche happened. We all know what happened to Anne Heche, how she was driving along and speeding, driving erratically, and they wanted to say that when they put the initial videos out, oh, there was a bottle of alcohol in her car, oh, she must have been on substance, she must have been on that, and we saw that when they actually got her out of that vehicle, that burned out vehicle, that they were trying to cover up or zip her up in that bag, and then she popped right up. We all saw that from the helicopter footage. We all saw that, but the next thing you know, she's gone. And when they got the toxicology report, which was actually a few days before DJ Steven Twitch was found, the toxicology report came back from Anne, and there were actually no substances in her system. There was no substances, no alcohol in her system. So the whole narrative that they fed everyone at the time was completely wrong based on the medical examiner report. And then to find out just a few days after that news comes out, then next thing you know, DJ Steven Twitch is not here any longer. So questions have been going on since that time, because no one is buying it. And now with this thing with Diddy happening, and then the connection that people were making between Diddy and Ellen, and how Diddy had been on the Ellen show at least 17 times, and Ellen was at the parties, and all of this, and everyone's wondering if anything went down. The question now is, did he do it? So people have been trying to make connections to see what's going on. What happened to DJ Twitch? So now, to try to wrap up those loose ends, because if the wife said at the time that there were no indications that he would ever do that, the family sure as heck said no way. The wife even said that no one would ever see it coming. She said that 5 months after he passed.
And there's no one that saw this coming. No one. And that also breaks my heart too. But I feel so sad that he was so there and we weren't in the knowing.
Then why now all of a sudden, 18 months later, once speculation is rampant, once all this stuff is going on with the downfall of, Hollywood and what's really been going on behind the scenes, now 18 months later, we have the wife coming out, the widow coming out and doing another interview where this time the story is vastly different.
I know him as Steven.
Yeah.
A lot of people knew him as Twitch.
Yeah.
Very two different humans. He wore this character of Twitch, and it did become a part of who he was, but that extroverted personality was not natural for him. So when he would go out as Twitch and make sure he's spreading all this love and joy and positivity and be dancing all the time for people and an entertainer, and such, it would drain his energy. So he'd come home and have to really recharge his battery.
Yeah.
And when you're saying recharge your battery, that also comes with the state of depression because you get really low.
Yep.
And you had to let him have that space to really kind of find himself in like in a darker space, let him live in that. He would always find his way out though.
You know, that's completely different than what she said before. And also she said that again, she saw the cracks in the window that last year that he was with them. She began to see that he needed to sleep more, but he was also an insomniac, so he would take these naps during the day, and he was sad. And to go from no one saw it coming to now, you know, this last week to say, oh, well, everyone saw it and was asking him, you know, are you okay? Maybe you need to take a break. Should you rest? Should you relax? You don't have to do it all. You have all this money. You have all this, that. You don't have to be everything for everybody. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you find these statements that his widow just recently made, are they different to you than what she said previously? Do you see the difference between those statements? And what is that when now someone whose whole legacy, whose whole life was based on, you know, this love, joy, positivity, dancing, happy, never give up. This is my message to you all. You know, endurance is wonderful because life has wonderful things waiting for you around the corner. His whole message, he lived his life like that. That was his message. But now to be told that really wasn't who he was. That was a character that he put on. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thank you for watching.